Well, the Mel Gibson produced movie Sound of Freedom has already grossed more than $40 million at the US box office. That's despite a near total blackout in terms of publicity and mainstream advertising, and of course, despite going head to head against one of the most famous franchises in cinematic history in Disney's Indiana Jones. Well, Sound of Freedom's runaway success has revived a topic that was previously considered some QAnon conspiracy theory. It was discredited by the media and, of course, global elites. It was only for the movies. The topic of adrenochrome.
As your attorney, I advise you to take a hit out of the little brown bottle in my shaving kit. You won't need much. Just a tiny taste.
Just chasing it around, you get adrenaline. So
what is it? That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome?
You have to put it under extreme.
Some people are just basically rotten. Anyway, the last thing in the world you want to do is go in the hotel again. They'll trace the call and put you straight in the bar.
So the topic of adrenochrome has returned to mainstream discussion. Sound of Freedom star Jim Caviezel has brought it up directly. Now, some people suggest that adrenochrome isn't even real, but in fact that it's a lie. No, it's not. It's very much real. Even if you don't believe the full set of claims about it being harvested from children or being consumed as a lifespan expanding aphrodisiac. Well, Dr. Shiva Adure has an MIT PhD in biological engineering, and just a few days ago, he produced a massively viral video about what adrenochrome is, how a child's body might be induced to create it, and the reason that it might be desirable for a person to take adrenochrome.
So let me tell you what this is like. To put it simply, you need stress and anxiety to create adrenochrome. If you're going to do this to an animal, be it a child or lab rat, you have to put it under extreme stress and anxiety. And that's what we're talking about. With just stress, you don't get it. You got to have both. So this is what I would call extreme torture. Because if you just have stress, you're not going to get adrenochrome. You have to have the stress and the anxiety. Everyone getting this? Everyone clear on this? So this is the example I'd like you to do. The lion is chasing the zebra. That's probably when adrenaline is being released. It hasn't got him yet. It's chasing it. But what about when this incident has occurred? This is when you're torturing the animal. You got it. This is the anxiety. So this will release adrenaline. In my theory, this releases a superoxide, which is the reactive oxygen species. So you need this and this. You need this and this. If you're just chasing it around, you get adrenaline. So if we want to put it in perspective, you need the stress and the anxiety to get this. So you need both of this taking place. They're probably torturing whoever they're doing this to. This is sort of torture. Now, at least in the animal world, they probably do this quickly and get it over with. But if you assume you torture it more, you're going to get more of this species, more of this, more adrenochrome. So prolonged torture, more stress, more anxiety is going to get you this. So what I want to share with you, everyone, is I think I have a basis for understanding adrenochrome synthesis. And it falls in line with people have been saying they're torturing these kids. This is the big takeaway that you can say that Dr. Shiva just offered you. An explanation for this.
Dr. Adure is also mounting an independent campaign for U.S. president. You can learn more at shivaforpresident.com. That's Shiva, S-H-I-V-A, the number 4, president.com. And he joins us now. Dr. Shiva, thank you so much for coming back. We always appreciate having you.
Great to be here, Steve. I mean, us too. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So adrenochrome, fable, conspiracy theory, bullshit, or does this stuff really exist?
Well, first of all, adrenochrome is a chemical, right, that exists. You can actually, I've come to understand you can actually buy it, right? But what I was interested in, by the way, I did that video, actually, the long form of that video 2 years ago when it was very, very unpopular even to talk about this, Stu. And as a MIT trained PhD, you're not supposed to talk about this kind of stuff, but I was getting lots and lots of emails, you know, when I was exposing Fauci in 2020, you know, talking about the immune system, people said, hey, Dr. Shiva, there's this thing called adrenochrome and these kids are being tortured. And, you know, there's a thesis that a set of elites have access to this substance and it prolongs life. It's an anti-aging, et cetera, you know, rejuvenant. So I was just intrigued from a scientific standpoint because I think that's what scientists are supposed to do, right? When a idea comes, you explore it fully. Science used to be like that at one time prior to the 1970s when people explored all sorts of ideas when there was and not this much censorship and attack on exploring ideas. So anyway, given I'm really not owned by anyone, Stu, I took this on because we have the tools, a tool called Cytosolve that came out of my work at MIT. And I said, okay, from a systems perspective, the thesis people were saying was that mammals, animals, children in this case, were put under torture. So that's essentially the systemic issue, right? At a high level physiological level, people are being put under torture. And the quote unquote conspiracy theory on this is that at that point, the child or the animal in this case is sacrificed and the blood is drunk from it. So, and the thesis is that you have this agent called adrenochrome. Now, adrenochrome is a compound, right? One of the compounds in blood. A simple example I could talk about is if you took carrot juice and you juiced it, right? The carrot juice has beta carotene in it, but you're also getting other nutritive substances, right? So today, I believe you can actually go buy adrenochrome, on the market. It's sold as a compound. It's a chemical. However, this is a larger question, which people need to understand. When you drink carrot juice, it's very different than getting beta carotene, right? Because you have all those other constitutive materials. In the field of biochemistry, we call them making any one of those materials more bioavailable. And we can talk more about that. But at a systems level, I applied the systems biology approach to understand if something, in this case, a system, which is a mammal child, undergoes stress or torture, which is very different, how would that lead to the production of adrenochrome, right? So system here undergoes torture, how at the biochemical level? So with the approach that we take from a systems perspective, you're not just looking at one piece of information. The goal is to connect the dots. So stress, as we know, the flight or fight response some people talk about, right? Imagine someone's chasing you around, right? Your adrenaline will kick into gear. It's part of evolution, right? This happens to soldiers. This happens to people who are under incredible stress. So adrenaline is a molecule which has a very particular structure, as that video I put out there shows. And I think when people go review that video, they'll see the chemical structure of it. So how does that chemical structure, adrenaline, get converted to adrenochrome? How would that occur? Well, you have to have what are called reactive oxygen species. ROS is sort of the broad term. So there's a whole range of reactive oxygen species our bodies produce when we're, let's say, in a state of anxiety, which is a little bit different than stress, okay? Uncertainty, right? And the example I gave in that is, an animal being chased. Obviously, the lion is chasing the zebra. It's going to have a lot of adrenaline. But at the point it's literally being held on by the animal in a state
sinking its teeth into its back,
sinking its teeth in its back. It doesn't know if it's if it doesn't know if it's going to get away or not. If you ever see the example I gave is a cat playing with a mouse, right? One is chasing around the mouse, but imagine the point that the cat captures a mouse. The cat is in a very different state now. It not only was stressed out, a lot of adrenaline was released, but now it's in a state of anxiety. It's not sure of its future. Uncertainty. Uncertainty is a very, very important characteristic of anxiety. Now, anxiety, and there's thousands of papers written on it. One of the key things of anxiety is that your body will release reactive oxygen species. And one of the key reactive oxygen species, so I looked at that, and superoxide is O2 minus would have to be released. And in fact, it is released under anxiety. So O2 will take the adrenaline molecule, and in that interaction, you will create adrenochrome. So the key point is, this should probably be published at some point, but I'm sure none of the major scientific publications, even though I'm publishing most of them, will probably never publish it. That's why I decided to do a video of it and take it right to people, Stu. So what's out there is, unfortunately, to test something like this out, you would have to put a mammal under incredible torture. But with Cytosolve, the technology I created, we don't have to kill animals. It's a very powerful technology which allows us to mathematically model mechanisms of action. We use it a lot to actually discover how natural compounds can heal people, solve all sorts of diseases. And when we did the same chemical interaction, you in fact see that you can go from adrenaline plus superoxide to get adrenochrome. So the key point is we have a mechanistic pathway that explains the creation of adrenochrome coming from stress, adrenaline, combined with anxiety, where you create ROS, reactive oxygen species. One thing to remember is that if you talk to many of the vitamin companies, many of the consumer packaged good companies, massive amounts of research, because a lot of them come to us, are going into what are the nutrients you can take for anti-anxiety. And anxiety is very powerful because it creates all sorts of reactive oxygen species. It creates inflammation. But under the right conditions, that example, like you're talking, like I put in that video where the lion is literally drilling its teeth into that zebra is, from this basis, at least have a mechanistic basis, would be releasing adrenochrome, if this mechanism is being in fact executed, which I believe it is.
So you just mentioned something. You said that it's unlikely that this will ever get published. So it's this platform's belief that we have a fake government, a hijacked government, a corporate murderous crime syndicate, actually, and that virtually everybody that's in our federal government is either under the influence of bribery or blackmail. Photos at Epstein Island. They're being paid by lobbyists, special interests. They're padding their pockets. One paycheck from the taxpayer, the other one from Pfizer and what have you. So if you didn't have anything to hide, then I would imagine that you would be talking about this. So why is it that our press and places like MIT, for example, or our government, or nobody wants to talk about this? Why? I mean, is in your opinion,
I think Stu, about 3 weeks ago, I did another video which got probably about 10 million views. And Twitter as a platform still is highly, highly censored. And we can have a longer discussion about that. And
I'm being throttled on Twitter.
Yeah, and it's Elon Musk is not the fighter for free speech. He's part of what I did a very short video with a whiteboard called The Swarm, How the Few Control the Many. If you haven't seen it, you should link it to it, because it really exposes to people that those in power are not just any one individual. It's not Hollywood. It's not the investment bankers. It's not big pharma. It's not the particular race. It's a whole swarm of people who are highly interconnected. And I laid it out. And the goal of that swarm is to perpetuate itself for power, profit, and control. And from a systems perspective, one of the big things that I promote is the concept of educating people on system science. And at truthfreedomhealth.com, people can go learn how to do that, because we need to educate people to understand it's not any one point. That's how they distract us. One day it's this person, another day it's this person. But when you understand that the swarm is an interconnected set of people, it involves Hollywood, involves the investment bankers, involves the Vatican, involves the central banks. It's all of these people, a very finite set of people, but they sort of telepathically communicate. The goal of those people is to input into the 8 billion people policies, propaganda, false heroes, like including Trump and Robert Kennedy, who was also on Epstein's plane. And right now, those two, what I call the not so obvious establishment, is very important to understand, Stu. It's easy to understand Fauci and Biden and the Clintons and Obamas. But the establishment is very clever. They create the not so obvious establishment in a recurring process. In 1984, they used Jesse Jackson. Then they used Obama. Then they used Bernie Sanders, right, to bring all the Democrats right back into the party. Trump, a lot of us who supported him, at the end of the day, he supported all of these policies. He was used to bring the right wing back into the establishment. And what is happening right now, Stu, is quite dangerous, Stu, is that the establishment knows, after a lot of the work that I've done in 2020, guys like you put stuff out there, that people are recognizing that the left and the right are one. And it's even more deeper. So They have to put forward these agents who are actually one of them, Robert Kennedy Jr. and Trump. And the idea is to sucker people back into the establishment. And if you really look at these people, they're all part of the swarm. Go look at Kennedy's actual history. The guy learns how to speak with forked tongue like a serpent. Look at what Trump actually said he was going to do and what he did do. And the problem is we have been brainwashed to basically accept, your personal integrity is different than your public integrity, that your words don't have to match your deeds. And in fact, Kennedy says it. He goes, personal integrity doesn't have to match public integrity. He says that. So we're in a very interesting world right now that the swarm has recognized that people are awakening in a very deep way. So they are pushing forward the not so obvious establishment. To answer your question, they will not answer certain things. They will go and talk about certain things, but in a very ambiguous way, right? But they won't talk at the heart of the issues, A, because they have their handlers. B, their goal is to sucker people into acting like they're anti-establishment. But at the end of the day, they actually they're essentially agents of what I call the swarm. And ultimately, the goal is to make sure people do not on their own build decentralized bottoms-up movements, which find people that are one of us, right? Not one of them. So that's what the phenomenon is going on. So the adrenochrome thing is quite fascinating because it's sort of a litmus test. Ooh, I'm not going to talk about that. Now, fortunately, because I have the training, I was able to talk about that in a context that is sort of, you're putting it into a scientific context because sodium plus chloride gives sodium chloride. That's just a chemical equation. Adrenaline plus super oxide will give you adrenochrome. And the conditions from a systems perspective is what I've presented. And I think a lot of these guys won't talk about it, Stu, because they'll all be implicated in this.
I agree.
All of them.
This is the reason why they won't talk about adrenochrome, but not only that, as we discussed with Anna Perez earlier, it's the reason why they won't blatantly throw homosexuality under the bus where it belongs, send it directly back to hell where it belongs. This is the reason why they won't talk about the Pfizer injections and the millions of people that are being maimed and murdered at the hands of doctors in so-called medical facilities when they administer this remdesivir and hook people that walked in under their own horsepower up to life support and ventilate them and separate them from their families and put them on cocktails of sedatives that are dangerous and deadly. This is why they won't talk about where the billions of dollars in weaponry went missing from the Ukraine and ended up allegedly in Paris. They were using RPGs that are weaponry.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin and Raytheon are getting filthy rich. The fossils in the DC Beltway, the military-industrial complex, Pfizer butt slut Lindsey Graham, all these people, these warmongering criminals, they won't talk about any of this. They just want to keep bringing you back to the shiny objects.
So, Stu,
I think about the shiny. I've got 1 minute left here.
I'm sorry.
Words.
I think bottom line, Stu. So the Lindsey Grahams, the obvious establishment we all know are scumbags, but we need to awaken because from a systems perspective, it is a not so obvious establishment. And the elites know that they can give the shiny objects of a Robert Kennedy or a Trump to sucker people back to the establishment. This may be hard. I lost 20% of my followers in 2020 when I had to do the dirty work of exposing Kennedy because you could see what he said and what he did. He says, I'm pro-vaccine. I vaccinated all my kids. And then he says he was going to somehow take the CDC and reform them to create quote unquote safe vaccines. You see, these people are speaking from both sides of the mouth. So later they can have I said that and this. Well, you didn't understand me. It's quite nuanced. So it's a very clever state that we're in. And Trump has done the same thing. He completely supported Operation Warp Speed. He didn't fire Fauci. And then he says, now I'm going to get back in. I'm going to obliterate the deep state. It's rhetoric. It's not based on actions. And people go look at my history in 2020, Stu. People realize I was the first one who called out Fauci. Kennedy was promoting lockdowns in 2020, strict lockdowns. So it's time people understand that delayed truth is deadly. Doesn't matter if you expose the truth. Now, when did you do it? When? Because now to write a book 2 years later, after all the damage is done and do speaking tours and acting like, you did something is nonsense. So I think people need to get wise. Go look at people's timeline. When did they say these things? When it was opportune to say them or when it was truly putting their reputation on the line to do it? That adrenochrome video I did 2 years ago, not when it was opportune.
I know all about being unpopular and having unpopular opinions and having a lot of enemies, like the ADL, for example, a great enemy to have. Dr. Shiva, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stu. Be well.
I won't talk about Dr. Kennedy again, Robert Kennedy won't talk about the bioweapon status of these injections.
He won't, and he basically said what's going on in Ukraine. We're there for the right reasons. Then he attacks Biden. You see, he's a very clever snake. And by the way, I challenge him to debate me, and he won't. And we have all of his contradictions on vaccines. This guy is truly part of the swarm. He's part of the deep state, his entire family.
Karen Kingston, biotech analyst for decades, did an interview with Bobby Kennedy showing him the pegylated lipid nanoparticle encapsulated in hydrogel and frozen in cryo, all this other stuff. Showed him all of these things. He has yet to this day to air that 45-minute interview because it completely dismantles everything that he has said.
Wow.
He won't air. But he did invite her to go hiking with him.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're not going hiking with a Kennedy.
Well, yeah. I mean, the reality is, Maureen Callahan of the Daily Mail, who's been following this, wrote a very, very powerful piece. But all the grifter mainstream media, I think you're one of the few people, Stu, is essentially giving Kennedy layups. Because they are getting quid pro quo. Twitter has become a banana republic. You say good things about Musk, you get views. You say negative things about him, you're put down. I was taken off Twitter, if you remember, in 2020 for exposing the backdoor portal. It was our lawsuit that got the first injunction showing that government and Twitter are one. All that was suppressed by Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, as well as even today. So Musk has done a limited hangout. Meanwhile, he actually is promoting the conservative grifters. He gives them views. In exchange, they're supposed to be his lapdogs. We live in a very dangerous world because we're at censorship 10.0, where you're allowed on Twitter and Facebook, but you're in a digital cage. And we should talk more about that, the predictive analytics that are taking place. But
very, very much so. Upcoming, we're going to do that, Dr. Shiva. I appreciate your candid language and not being afraid to just say the absolute truth. That's what we're here to do, because the absolute truth
at the right time. Delayed truth is deadly.
And at the right time.
Right.
The truth is deadly. Virtual, digital, and even physical prisons, that's where they want you. More of the Stu Peters Show continues in 60 seconds.
Be well, Stu.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. All right, everyone. That was a quick interview which Stu will air, but I wanted to make sure you guys were aware that we did a quick interview with Stu Peters to really talk about what's going on with the biochemistry of adrenochrome. He was very excited. I'm glad he did this, but as a part of that, we also were able to share with people the contradictions of the not so obvious establishment. This is one of the powerful things that's going on. The establishment is not just we know the obvious establishment, but it is the not so obvious establishment that is the one that's bamboozling people to come back to the establishment. They have two fangs. One is Trump and one the Republican Party, and one is via the Democrats. They have Kennedy. And the goal is to claw you back. They're speaking rhetoric. In fact, most of Kennedy's stuff is taken from my real words, but to sucker people back into the establishment. So I want to play for you a video which we want to let all of you know that you don't have to go for the lesser of two evils. You don't have to get suckered back in, because historically what's happened is as people start rising up and they start understanding what the establishment is up to, and they want to build a bottoms-up movement, over the last 50 years, the technology that the establishment is doing is they are presenting you people who say the words, but if you actually look at them and look at their long history, they've always been against you. And they've always been very ambiguous in their words. They never did the right thing at the right time. And that par exemplar is Kennedy and Trump. And I'm the only one who was consistently, you can go look at my history until I was 15 years old, that I'm consistently been fighting on the ground for us. These people are not one of us. And we must shatter the swarm. And it's time that we get one of us. And that's why I decided to run, Shiva for president, because it's time we have one of us, and everyone here has a huge opportunity to support one of us, which is me in this important presidential campaign, which has rarely occurred. Guys like me typically sell out to the establishment and get all their accoutrements to do that. I have not done that because I never forgot where I came from. My grandparents, the village in India, the poor people I grew up with in New Jersey, and the working class people. So this is an incredible opportunity for all of you to get involved. Go to shivaforpresident.com, volunteer, donate. And by the way, when you donate to me, I actually give you back knowledge so you can understand the swarm. You learn system science, you get books. So whenever you give me something, I give you something back. I'm not just saying, thank you, give me money, and then I go talk about it. I got $3 million this year. I can't believe people are giving these people money. But anyway, let me play a video for you and I'll come right back on what our presidential campaign is about, why it's historic. We're not beyond just being left or right. We're not the obvious or not so obvious establishment. We are truly independent people who are building a bottoms up movement for truth, freedom, and health. And all of you can be involved. You can understand the richness of why we need to build a bottoms up movement, why we cannot trust them. Kennedy and Trump are them. They're not one of us. One guy has golden plated toilets. One guy has his mansions in Hyannisport. Both of these people can do whatever they want with women, pay them off and get away with it. You and I can't do that, okay? We have to pay for our crimes or our sins. They don't. That's what makes the difference between us and them. So kindly listen to this video. If you've heard it before, listen to it again, but get involved. Go to shivaforpresident.com and get involved in this movement for truth, freedom, and health. I want to play this video and I'll be right back. Share, by the way, share this with all of your friends wherever you are. Every Thursday, we do an open house at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. Invite as many people. You can go to vashiva.com/orientation, or for the town hall, shivaforpresident.com/town hall. Share this, retweet it out, get it out to all your friends on the planet, because they do massive suppression of me, but they will hyper promote people like Kennedy because they are one of them. They're not one of us. So let me play this video and please enjoy it. and get involved. Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr.SHIVA Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place, by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers, and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day, millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health versus power, profit, control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President. All right, everyone. I hope that was helpful. So what I wanted to finish up with is thanks, everyone, for the great comments on the stream. Please go to shivaforpresident.com. Do it for yourself, not for me. This is a movement that we are creating bottoms up. So we have to get on the ballot in all 50 states, plus, some of the territories. And the way you can help is go to Shiva for President, volunteer. help us get on the ballot. The other way you guys can help us, go to Shiva for President and get the simple bumper sticker. When you get that bumper sticker and you put it on the back window of your car, 100,000 people see it per day. So you can, whether you are busy and you work hard like all of us do, they don't, okay? They have time to campaign all day, we don't. That bumper sticker is a very powerful way for you to get the word out. If you want to donate money, not only do I give you bumper sticker, I give you books, I give you courses so you can understand the science of systems. Because this is about building a movement where you understand why you need to become a leader. I just happen to be a catalyst, and we need to recognize that they are never going to do anything for us. They are not one of us. And this needs to get very, very clear. They do not want leaders from among us, guys like me who earned everything I have, just like you. Every degree I have, I've earned. Robert Kennedy didn't have to earn any of his degrees. His mama and papa got him to Harvard. He could fail the bar and then someone made a call for him. You see, they have a different world. They can go abuse women. You know, his wife hangs himself and then somehow mysteriously everything's cleaned up and he still smells good. His uncle, Ted Kennedy, killed a woman here and he gets to be senator. You see, this is called corruption. They're part of the corruption. So anyone who thinks out of shit, you know, out of this dirty shit that you're going to get something that smells good, you're sort of insane. So you really have to go look at people's histories. Go look at my entire history of always fighting, of commitment. And that's why we're here today, because we're here to build a movement. And this movement cannot be just based on me. It's about you. So when you join this movement, shivaforpresident.com, and you volunteer and you donate, you're part of a community. In fact, a national and a growing international community. We have about 500 million people who saw all those videos I did that saved millions of people's lives over the last 2 to 3 years. But more importantly, we're building a community of people recognizing that it's up to us. And the fundamental way that we win is that we have to come together. So our campaign for president is, someone just said this, shit is worthless if it's not properly fermented. Okay. Also recognize the other thing that we're doing. Ken said it a little bit more better. You can't make shit shine. Right. So they don't want people to look at the histories of these people. And all of the grifter media has become the neo-establishment media. The Fucker Carlsons, be it the Joe Rogans, be it the, Russell Brands, they're all part of the neo-new media because the legacy media has died, but these people are still part of the swarm. That's what we need to understand. So the future is us, those people. If you are podcasters and you're beyond the left and right, let me know. Our goal is to help local podcasters, local YouTubers, not these conglomerates. Joe Rogan is owned by a multi-trillion-dollar entity. Same with Russell Brand. These people are not one of us. So get involved. Know that we have a huge opportunity right now. And as a part of that involves you understanding how systems work. So I educate you on that. If you go look at the stream of my timeline, there's a great video on the swarm. There's a great video on how GMOs work, on healthcare. I, as president, will continue to educate people. Look, the judiciary is corrupt. The judges are corrupt. The legislators are all bought and paid for. In fact, the presidency is corrupt. So for me to claim I'm going to get in there and drain the swamp, that's nonsense. The only people who can shatter the swarm is us, nobody else. And it has to be bottoms up. Winning the presidency, what am I going to do different? Well, I'll keep doing these kinds of videos, but I'll have access to 8 billion people across the planet. That swarm video got about 20 million views. In Twitter, was massively suppressed, but many of you took that video, you uploaded it, and it got out to millions of people. That is the future. The future is us supporting one of us, not one of them. So for God's sake, recognize in 1984, the establishment created a guy called Jesse Jackson. He talked a good anti-establishment game. At the last minute, when Reagan and what's his face, Mondale were running, he gives all of his votes to Mondale. He says, oh, we got to do the lesser of two evils. Obama was created to manipulate the white and black working classes. And that's what he did. And then after Obama, they realized that the white working class in this country was breaking away. So the right wing created the other not so obvious establishment, Trump. If you believe elections are selections and you believe that and you're on the Trump side, well, how did Trump get elected? And don't give me the bullshit that, oh, he had more votes. No, Trump is also selected. He was selected to suck all the conservatives back into the establishment. And now, because of our movement starting in 2020, where we've explained to people the concept of the not so obvious establishment, this is a serious weapon. You see, the elites' initial technology to suppress all of us was fascism. Openly, they shoot people, right? They supported fascist regimes. But then they realized, starting in the 1920s and 50s, that people were going to be smart. They would have their martyrs and it would inspire people. So they created fake martyrs. They created fake heroes. And using those fake heroes, they suckered people back into the wings of the establishment. Bernie Sanders was put out there because people were tired of the Democrats of Hillary Clinton. So then they put Bernie out there, and a lot of young people came to Bernie, and then he corralled them right back into the establishment. That is the role of Trump and Kennedy. Mark my words, Trump and Kennedy. As you know, go look at my history since 2020. I've always been 1000% correct. And that's because I'm one of you. I do not want us to suffer. If you look at the data today, since 1980 till today, people, our people's lifespan is going down. Their lifespans are going up, but everyday people's lifespan is going down. They want to kill us. They're not one of us. So do you really think Kennedy's taking testosterone shots? By the way, testosterone and androgen shots are going to become a $140 billion industry, bigger than the mRNA vaccine industry. So this guy is taking Big Pharma's testosterone therapy. And then on the other hand, he's saying, oh, I'm against the vaccine. But in his own home, everyone had to get the vaccine before they came to a party. Do you understand? They think you're all idiots. I remember being in Hollywood, and that's why I left. Never really had an interest there because I realized that they despise all of you. They hate you and me. You know what they say? They say, if you go to get a signature from them, an autograph, they say that's star fucker. Anyone after hearing this and the critique I've done of Kennedy still follows him is a star fucker, because that's what they call you. They call you star fuckers, those people who go goo goo gaga over the Kennedys and these celebrities. They hate the everyday person. In fact, they say the masses are asses. Well, I'm one of the mass. So are you. But I never forgot where I came from. So it's important that we rise up and we shatter the swarm. It's time for one of us. Shiva for president, truth, freedom, and health. And in order to do that, each one of you has to really understand where I'm coming from. And you can understand that when you go to the scientific principles. There are 9 scientific principles that will really, which the elites know, by the way, and they use those systems principles to manipulate people. But if you understand these scientific principles, you become your own teacher, your own guru, your own hero. I'm just a teacher in this. And my running for president and winning the presidency will help teach a lot of people. But that knowledge is the science of systems. You see, there's a book I have here, right here. And this is not an ad. You don't have to buy it. You get it free, by the way, and you become a Truth from Health warrior. System and Revolution. You will understand what is a system. What is a revolution? And we will understand that we have to build a bottoms-up movement. But a bottoms-up movement can only occur if we understand the scientific principles. Otherwise, we will fail. We will think Kennedy is our hero. He's a devil. He's a demon. We'll think Trump is our hero. He's not. Look at what he did. Not what he says, but what he did. Every one of my actions match my deeds, because the working people that I love and trust and that are my heroes, their words match their deeds. These people's words do not match their deeds. So I want to inspire all of you to get involved, get educated, or be enslaved. Get those bumper stickers. Go to Shiva for President. Become a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior. And I hope this last video I played before I sign off will inspire all of you to go to truthfreedomhealth.com, become a warrior scholar. And by the way, it's a program I've created. It involves technology. It involves a community. It involves leaflets and flyers so you can get on the ground. It involves activating you, but it gives you all the architectural tools so you can be a warrior. You can be a scholar. You can be a leader. That's what this is about. This is about you. There is no Messiah coming to save us. There's no Messiah coming to save us. And the Messiahs that are coming to save us want you to also rise up. They will judge you on what you did to fight for yourself and your family. So let me play this video. And remember, shivaforpresident.com, volunteer and donate, and become a warrior for truth, freedom, and health. And I hope this video inspires you. We have allowed our country to be taken over from within
And the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is, the dynamics of all systems that affect nature. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Truth, freedom, health. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work uniting. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers, completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, you don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is the not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is the not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. We're building a bottoms-up movement, and that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done, and it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. You know, Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote-unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum where people can go to truthfreedomhealth.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people 2 years of MIT control systems. I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it. Anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. Now, the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on truthfreedomhealth.com. So people can sign in, they can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there. But we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com.
reasons. Do it for your family, do it for yourself, but recognize that ultimately the goal of a leader is to educate people and to tell the truth at the right time. If you go look at my history and our movement's history, in 2020 and early 2020, we're the ones who first called out Fauci. In fact, not only just called him out, ran the Fire Fauci campaign, collected 100,000 signatures, and drove our bus for 36 hours down to DC and handed those signatures to the RNC and Trump at that time. They did nothing. It was our campaign which led massive protests against lockdowns in 2020. Robert Kennedy was promoting strict lockdowns, saying it's going to save the climate. That's what a stupid fool he is, okay? Not only stupid, he serves his masters. Trump was promoting lockdowns. Trump was part running the government of the United States. And now he's saying he's going to get back in and obliterate the deep state. He didn't obliterate the deep state when he was there. And all of the Trumpers make lots and lots of excuses for him. There is no excuse. Go look at my history. You will see me as a kid fighting for all of us. It was I who ran some of the earliest massive demonstrations at MIT to make sure more women could go to MIT, more poor people, black and white. I organized the food service workers who were being mistreated by the MIT administration. During my PhD graduation, I was the only among 20,000 people who raised a huge sign which said US out of Iraq when it was unpopular to do that. It's not a leader who does the things when it's popular. A true leader does the things when it's the right time to do it. So go look at my history and recognize that all of you deserve a real leader, and it only can come from one of us. It cannot come from one of them because they're all opportunists. So get involved. And by the way, someone put a question up. They said, did Robert Kennedy really take steroids? Well, let me just show you. He admitted, these people tell to your face what they're doing. This came out, he said, Booby Jr. admits using quote unquote legal steroids to get buff at age 69. And by the way, legal steroids, quote unquote legal steroids or steroids in general, I can tell you as a systems biologist, have 100 million times more chance of creating blood clots than even any of these quote unquote vaccines, okay? 100 million times. So the mRNA industry is going to grow to about 120 billion by 2030. Guess how big the steroid androgen industry is? It's going to grow to about 150 billion, nearly $30 billion bigger. So, and that's all from big pharma. So Booby Kennedy looks like a creep. I've never taken any of this stuff, and I could probably do more push-ups, more sit-ups, bench more than him. This body is, born in India and it's made in America through actual good food. Food is medicine. Booby's body, he was a heroin addict, and then he goes on to steroids. We should do a whole video on this. Think about what I'm saying. This guy was a heroin addict. By the way, testosterone, when you stop taking testosterone, it has the same withdrawal and, the addiction type phenomenon as drugs do, like cocaine and crack and heroin. So this guy just moved from crack and heroin to a new drug. And these people do not tell you the truth. They want you to believe that you can have two types of integrity. You can cheat on your wife, you can beat up people, you can murder people. And then in the public life, you can be different. In fact, I got it on video where he says, your personal integrity has nothing to do with your public integrity. Come on. What are you saying? What are you saying to your children? Is this a kind of value system that should be embodied in someone who's a leader of the most powerful nation on the planet? Your personal integrity does not need to match your public integrity. What are you saying? Okay? So get involved. And anyone, wherever you are in the world, you could be involved in the movement for truth, freedom, and health. You could support our campaign by telling your friends, but get this video out to as many people as you know. Share it, get it out. You know that I will always tell you the truth, most importantly at the right time, and we'll take the right action. So telling the truth at the right time and taking the right action. That's a real leader, okay? So anyway, get involved. This is all about you. I'm merely a humble catalyst who was fortunate to get all this education and didn't use my education for oppression, but wants to use it for liberation. So I want all of you to get involved, okay? Please get involved for yourself. They want to kill us. The lifespan of people is going like this. I know many people are in their 90s and their kids are dying in their 60s. That's what they want. They do not want you to live long and prosper. I do, because I'm one of you. So get involved. This is 2024 is going to be an important time. Either we're going to head into massive darkness with the not so obvious establishment like Trump or Kennedy or those people lying to you and thinking they're solving problems and they're really the devil, or it's going to be our liberation from us. So get involved. Be well, everyone. Be the light. And again, remember, every Thursday, come to our open house. You'll meet other incredible people. And the reason I hold these open houses is so you don't feel as though you're alone. So get involved. vashiva.com/orientation or shivaforpresident.com. Be well, everyone. Be the light, and best to you and your families. Thank you. I got to shut it off.